Welcome to this instructional video on how to teach our Management for Church Leaders Volume Number 2 training. My name is Barry Voss and I'm President of Faith Life Ministries, and I'm also the author of this training. In this video, I will be sharing an overview of the training course and how to teach it to others. To begin with, what is training? And we provide you with the trainer's manual, but training is more than just reading out of a trainer's manual or reciting what's already there. Training is really about sharing stories, illustrations, and other information to help the students or participants understand the material so that they can apply it in their own lives. So some of you might be asking, where did this training come from? Well, we began with our Management for Church Leaders training back in 2001. In 2006, we ended up splitting it into two volumes, a volume 1, which you're aware of and mostly using, and now volume 2. And volume 2 is a lot of the same types of materials that we used in volume number 1, but they're different topics, but it's structured pretty much the same. And it's in order to provide additional training on management for church leaders. This is not how to run your church. Again, this is a manual that contains tools and techniques on how to be a more effective manager of the resources that God gives you in your church or ministry. It's designed for pastors and church leaders, but it's also relevant for Bible students who are attending Bible classes or Bible schools. This training is biblically based and biblically supported. It's built on the Bible as the foundation of the teaching. It's also basic training and meant to be very practical, something that you can, after you go through the training, you can apply it into your ministry. It was designed to supplement a pastor's training that they receive in seminary Bible schools on theology and preaching and teaching. This training is more about management and how to manage your resources that include people, money, time, and other things that you have at your disposal. Let me now discuss the structure of this manual. As I mentioned before, it's structured just like the Management for Church Leaders Volume Number 1 into 3 sections. And we have a section number 1 is about ministry leadership. Section number 2 is about managing people. And section number 3 is about managing resources. In our first section here in this manual, we teach about leadership character, delegation and accountability, developing your communication skills, and also developing your leadership skills. In section 2 on managing people, we have chapters on building community, developing teams, managing small groups, and also managing your life, because you need to understand how to manage your life to be a more effective minister. In the third section on managing resources, we have chapters on budgeting, fundraising, managing change, and also decision making. This manual is meant to be a reference guide and a toolkit for the participants who attend the training, so that they take it back to their churches or ministries and they can apply what they've learned and refer back to what they were taught in the course. Next, I would like to talk about how to prepare for the training. The first thing you should do is you should review the trainer manual, which you will be provided. You need to familiarize yourself with the training. You need to review the instructions and the time allotments. And then you need to think about illustrations or Bible stories that you can use to illustrate the key points that are taught in that particular training. Secondly, you need to know the audience. Know the types of leaders who will be attending. Are they pastors? Are they ministry leaders? Are they Bible students? Are they just participants in church? This is important because this training is meant for leaders, and that should be your focus in this particular training course. You should also know the background of attendees. How long have they been in ministry? Where do they come from? Are they from this particular church area? Or do they come from another part of the country or even from a different country? So the important thing is that before you begin teaching, understand and know who your audience is so you can direct the training to meet their needs. Third, you need to develop a training schedule. You should allow approximately 60 to 90 minutes for each chapter. All depends on how much you want to engage with them and how long it may take to teach the training. You can teach this training either daily, weekly, monthly. It's up to you. But if you teach it daily, just keep in mind that it's about 15 or 16 hours worth of training. So if you're going to teach it on a daily basis, it may take you 2 to 3 days to teach it. But you could also teach for an hour a day, an hour a week, for example, and you can cover the material in 12 weeks. That decision is up to you and what fits for your particular locale and situation. And finally, you need to prepare training materials. I encourage you to make copies of the manual, because this is what they need to take notes in and to take back to their churches so that they can refer back to it at some point in the future. You can use a whiteboard or a chalkboard to draw illustrations on the board, and some of the instructions include some of these things, but you can also make up your own illustrations, your own diagrams in your own language, which you might want to put on a blackboard or a whiteboard. And finally, there's also the option of using PowerPoint slides. We have PowerPoint slides for all of our training already in English, but not too many other languages except for our Management for Church Leaders Volume 1. So more are coming, and so hopefully if you refer back to our resource page, you can find additional translations that you might be able to use in your training if you have the ability to use PowerPoints and computers. Next, I want to talk about how do you actually teach the Management for Church Leaders training. Well, first of all, follow the instructions in the trainer's manual. Introduce each chapter's concept by reading the introduction. Ask questions where indicated to enable concept understanding. Now, there are some questions that are meant for the large group. Some are meant for smaller groups. You can break them into groups of 3 or 4 and have them discuss a particular question. Just bear in mind that whenever you do a small group discussion, it will take a little bit more time to go through those. You can also use illustrations whenever possible to reinforce concepts. As I mentioned before, you can use other Bible stories, other scripture passages, and maybe even your personal experiences to highlight how this particular point can be applied in a person's ministry or in their role as a pastor or leader. Second, you should always involve participants. Discussion is very important to learning. So having small discussion groups or having times where you can discuss about a particular point is encouraged, and we welcome that. Because by asking questions and giving answers, people can get a better understanding of that particular topic that you're talking about. Even there's other people that don't want to ask questions. They will learn by listening to the discussion. You can call on specific individuals to generate discussion if it's appropriate, if you know them well enough and you know that they'll be willing to speak, but you don't want to make people uncomfortable by calling out their name. You can ask for volunteers, but be sure to reinforce correct answers. Don't criticize someone if they don't get the right answer. It's just not the right answer, and move on. I would also ask for biblical references and illustrations, even personal experiences. People can share their stories of what's worked and what hasn't worked in their own ministry as it relates to the point that you're teaching. Finally, in this particular section, do the chapter exercise. This is very important. We put an exercise in there for a reason. And the reason is so that the students and the participants can think about what they've learned and be able to either write or do something to make sure they understand the concepts that were taught in this particular chapter. It's to practice the concept, it's to reinforce what they've learned, and it's also to gain understanding. These are critical tools of using the exercise, so it's very important that you make sure that you do the exercise at the end of each chapter in the book. The last thing you need to do if you're going to teach this training is to summarize the training. In other words, ask review questions after each section in the training manual. There are questions in those manuals you can ask just to affirm that they understand the key concepts and to enhance their retention of what was taught. Secondly, have a closing question and answer session each day or after each session just to clarify anything that you taught and to also gain a better understanding of what was being taught or uncover any misunderstandings of what was taught. Third, you can hand out completion certificates. We provide those to you if you want them, but you can create your own at the end. But we suggest you do this at the end of the training. It's to confirm the training, it's to bless the participants, and it's to also encourage attendance throughout the training. You can also ask for participant testimonies at the end of the training. You can have people come up and share what they learned that was important to them in their ministry. If you can videotape those and share them with us so that we have them as well. You can also use them to gather feedback from the attendants about what they think about the training, and you can pass along any ideas to me as well that we can incorporate into our training. And finally, if you do a training, you need to report that training back to me at Faith Life Ministries. I need to know the location and dates of the training. I need to know the number of people you trained, and we do track the total number and also the number of pastors that are being trained. You can send me any testimonies and feedback. And you can also send me photos from the training. We sometimes like to use those when we publish articles about our training in our newsletters. Well, thank you for watching this video with an overview of the training. There will be additional videos for each chapter that I encourage you to go through that will help you understand how to teach individual chapter. Thank you again for watching, and may God bless you.